by the McKinsey Global Institute found that only 37% of employers in Africa believe that new graduates are adequately prepared for the workforce. And the Global Education Monitoring Report by UNESCO in 2020 indicates that only 30% of African countries have comprehensive career guidance and counseling systems in place for students. There are lots and lots of reports. Abaka Anaman for agreeing to talk to us today on career readiness, education in African schools. It's a privilege to have you on the Let's Talk Education Africa podcast.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Senyo. I'm excited that you're having me here today. Or let me say tonight, because we are doing this in the night. And I'm thrilled that, getting the opportunity to share my own perspectives based on my own experiences. So let's dig right in.
Well, thank you very much. I know it was kind of tough finding an appropriate time because you are a very busy person managing different projects here and there. So I really appreciate that we've made time for this meeting. Now let's jump straight into the discussion. The first thing I would like to know it's about you in terms of your own professional journey. Can you tell us a bit about yourself and your professional journey?
Okay, so my name is Joel. I am a trained pharmacist by profession, but I do have interests beyond healthcare, right? And one of those interests is people management, or let me say human capital development. So although being a pharmacist, working a sales job with a multinational pharma company for about 3.5 years, along that tangent, I was also helping people with their resumes, giving them clarity about careers, etc. And then somewhere in 2019, so that was becoming a pharmacist in 2016. Quarter 4 2016, and then eventually in quarter 3 2020 I decided to jump ship and then transition into tech, because that's something that I was really fascinated about, the fact that you could create things, right? So when I got into the Shaveling Scholarship, it was just an opportunity to sort of focus on building the resume, services and the career coaching services into a whole business at that point. And that's what brought about Career-Readiness. And when I was studying for my master's in business analytics and management sciences, I also decided to explore different career options, and seeing that product management was the best option for me, I would say. So I decided to, do a couple of informational interviews, gather more information, and plan my transition into product management. So since then, I've been able to build an app with a team. So the app is Mande, and it's supposed to help professionals track their growth. And beyond that, too, Career-Readiness has served over 400 professionals across the globe. So that's just a quick summary about my professional self, how I started as a pharmacist, worked in sales, transitioned into tech, and still built a career coaching business with my amazing teams.
Yeah. So if I get you correctly, you're no longer working as a pharmacist. This is a full-time commitment, and you transitioned fully into tech and career development.
Yes, I'm not practicing as a pharmacist at the moment.
Do you see yourself going back?
In terms of practice, I'm not sure. I think as we move along in the conversation, there are some things that I would highlight and all of that, what brought me to pharmacy, etc. But my mom also has a herbal business, right? So I leverage my technical understanding of things in the pharmaceutical space there most of the time, right? Okay. So product specifications, getting stuff to FDA, the FDA in Ghana, getting things registered, all of that. So yeah, I still practice pharmacy in a little niche, in a specific corner.
Let's jump into your product. You created career-readiness, and you've also created Mande. And let's come to Mande. Why did you start Mande? And you did indicate earlier that you were running some informational interviews. What did you find, and what made you want to come up with a product like Mande? Can you also seize the opportunity to tell us what this is about, for those of us who do not know what this is about?
Okay. So I would say that the beginning of Mande is actually from career-readiness. So Mande is a social impact project, or let me say product. We started career-readiness. Career-readiness started as a pro bono work. It didn't have a name, and then eventually I realized that people were abusing it, so I decided to flip it into a business. It was nowhere in my plan, but I guess that's what adaptability is. So I did that, and when I was, when career-readiness got the team together, we kept moving. I realized that we wanted to scale, if we wanted to reach more people, if we wanted to create the impact that I wanted to create, there has to be a way for us to think about things. And it's not just resumes. We discovered that people have a core challenge, and this core challenge is the ability to recognize the value they deliver at work, the ability to quantify or qualify this value, the ability to document this value effectively, and then the ability to communicate it. So mostly at the point where they come to career-readiness, they have skipped the first 3 steps, right, of the RQDC framework. They skipped the recognition, quantification, documentation, and then they come to you that, hey, I want to communicate my value through a CV, right? So it's something that it's been consistent. Like over 90% of the people that we served were in that particular box. So I thought to myself that it would be great to build something that solves this particular issue. And interestingly enough, people do not know that they have this challenge till it's pointed out to them. So that's how Mande came to being, that, hey, let's build Mande to help people to become more self-aware about their achievements at work, but mostly it goes beyond that. Talk about your setbacks, your learnings, right? Like it's like you're building a whole corpus of your professional self. You're cloning your professional self. So that's literally what Mande is. It's a professional growth tracker, AI driven. That's supposed to help you, understand how you're growing and make core career decisions for yourself.
How do you think the usage of Mande is picking up in terms of interest? Because it's interesting you mentioned that there are people who do not even know that they need a service like this, linking to recognition, documentation, and communicating their impact at work. So how has the journey been in terms of uptake, but also what has some of the lessons you have learned on this journey?
Okay, so I would say currently we have 1,100 people on our wait list. We started the wait list from last year, April, and it's been purely organic, no ads, nothing of that sort. And it's been mainly, as I mentioned, like the social impact. So when we saw that people had interest, we literally started building it. And I would say that we released to private beta, that's like a small cohort of people, in December. We've had interesting lessons, even among team members, we've had interesting lessons, and we are making some major improvements. But our core goal is to release Mande to the people on our wait list before April ends. Yes, before April 2023 ends, we are planning to do that release. On the other hand, though, we've released a couple of products. So we have like Mande Quant, which is literally something that helps you to quantify right, your achievement. So if you go to Quant, that's QUANT.mande.ai, you can put in anything that you're proud of, whether it's one of the most difficult tasks that you worked on, or like a project that you led, whatever it is. If it's also an achievement, you can put it in there. And then it would actually help you discover your true impact, like getting you to understand that, to measure the value that you brought to the table by virtue of that particular achievement. These are the things that you should look at. It gives you the bigger picture of how your work is contributing to the organization. And it's ungated. We've had over 600 visits. We released it less than a month ago. We've had over 600 visits and over about 800 visits, and about 238 people, the last time I checked, have actually generated responses, right? Because not everybody who gets on the platform will generate a response. And that's a good conversion rate, if you'd ask me. So that's literally what we've been up to, and we can't wait to release it to the squad on the wait list.
That is nice. I mean, about 1,000 individuals waiting for Mande to be released. I wish you the best.
Yeah, and so let me just plug in here. If anybody wants to join the wait list, it's mande.mycareerhero.com. So mande.mycareerhero.com. You can join the wait list there.
Yeah, that's good. I was coming to that, but I think you've been proactive in putting it out there, which is amazing. So now I would jump into career readiness in Africa in terms of our education prepare us. But just to give a bit of a background, a report by the McKinsey Global Institute found that only 37% of employers in Africa believe that new graduates are adequately prepared for the workforce. And the Global Education Monitoring Report by UNESCO in 2020 indicates that only 30% of African countries have comprehensive career guidance and counseling systems in place for students. There are lots and lots of reports, research, and statistics on this. There seems to be a general issue of our education, especially in many countries, not preparing us to be career ready, whether it's about taking the entrepreneurship path or getting into a career looking for a job. In your opinion, how would you diagnose this problem? Essentially, what do you think are some of the common barriers to career readiness in Africa?
Yeah, so I would say it's a lot of factors, right? The educational system, which is largely influenced by the policy that exists, the cultural systems, right? The cultural systems, the should I say the individualistic should I say characteristics, like for each person, the persona that they have, right? Their attitudes, their behaviors, etc. So primarily I would say that these three things are the factors that really impact career readiness. And why do I say so? So the bit about educational systems, Senyo, we both schooled in the UK because of Chevening, and I don't know if you realize that your school's career center would always be chasing you with emails to join, some sort of event from alumni. I don't know if you recognize that trend, but that was a lot at University of Southampton. Exactly. And I literally was comparing that to my undergrad, right? It could be that they don't have the resources, but that's like a gap to bridge. So I didn't experience a lot of that. It was more like my own individualistic approach to things. And that brings me to that second point. So if the educational system is not providing the resources, then there's the other factor is you being able to have that awareness, and being able to chase things. So for example, I was privileged to be let me say I'm privileged to be the last child of my parents. So I have three elder siblings, and I had to just tap from their experiences. The first resume I wrote was really trash. The second one, I had it because my sister was in University of Oxford by then, so I was able to take cues from there, and that gave me an enlightenment. But I could have just, dabbed or copied whatever I got from her, from University of Oxford. But that was what sent me through that path of exploration and eventually building career-able as a business. So that individualistic approach to things, like, are you curious enough? Are you willing to go the extra mile? All of that, I think it plays a key factor. Then the last one is also the culture, right? The environment. So when you look at, maybe when you go to a capitalist society like the US, people are like more, should I say, more aware, right? People who want to pursue their careers, they are relatively more aware. And I'm saying this from an anecdotal point of view, right? They are relatively more aware of things career related, and it's mainly because of the clientele that I've served. That's maybe giving me that indication, right? So culturally, and even let me give a further example, like, it's a common thing to say informational interviews in somewhere like the UK or the US, but it's not so common when you tell a student that, hey, conduct an informational interview. They most always will go like, what's an informational interview? And that's fine. Even beyond explaining, you realize that you've never done anything of that sort, which is basically to get in touch with someone that reflects what you want to be in the future and learn from their journey, because you don't have to make the same mistakes that they've made. That's basically an informational interview. So the cultural bit plays a role, because then the act of chasing information, finding information, and even sometimes getting people to share information, right? So there's a bit of you not chasing for the information, and there's a bit of you chasing for the information, but people not willing to share, right? So that plays a key role. I've coached people into remote jobs, and trust me, when they go for, like, when they're trying to do informational interviews with people in the companies, people who are outside are more receptive to giving them information about, the job, how the company culture is like, etc., as compared to people who are, let's say, from Ghana, who are in the same company, or who are from Africa but in the same company. These are all, as I mentioned, they are things from my perspective. They are mainly anecdotes. There's no large study to prove that, but I'm sharing this after working with over 400 people. So the culture bit, I believe, also exists, right? So those three things are things that I think it really impacts career readiness. If you have the support of the educational system, if you are naturally driven, and the culture, the environment is really supportive of, giving you information, seeing everybody, move ahead and all of that, then you become more ready in your career, I'll say.
Yeah, that is an interesting point on reflecting on how education and cultural background of certain, as well as individual characteristics in their personality, play on that. Just to drag on that a bit, I would want to stay with education bit, because the focus of this podcast is on education. You were drawing some relationships or in your experiences studying in the UK as well as in Ghana. I feel like a lot of our universities at least have a career guidance and counseling services. And when you speak to them, they will tell you that it is the students who do not come to them because they are there for them. And this relates to the third point about individual characteristics, and the fact that some people are more aware and intentional about their career goals and some are not. Do you think that generally the education system does not make people mindful or intentional about their careers. And I ask this in relation to, like, from your personal experience, whether you had a clear idea what you wanted to go into from your junior high school and senior high school, and how you relate this back to if there is a level of intentionality in the education system to prepare people to go into particular careers or make them ready to make a sound career decision.
Okay. So, well, originally, when I was a kid, right, I wanted to be a cardiovascular surgeon. It's just one of those things that you dream to be when you're a kid. And when I got to university, into high school, I understood my capabilities more, right? I understood my strengths more. I realized that I was very audiovisual. I realized that I had challenges with reading, but I loved conceptual courses like subjects like chemistry and all of that. So for me, at that point, I was like, what course can I do in the university that will not require me to do a lot of reading, but I would still be able to, do something healthcare related, right? Yeah. So I came to that decision to study pharmacy, and I had not consulted anybody. I had a picture of pharmacy in my head. I really thought that pharmacists at that point could do everything that a doctor does, only that they don't do surgeries and all of that, and they are more close to the community. Now that I got admission into pharmacy school, and I'll say pharmacy is a great course. Like, I discovered that the reason why I chose pharmacy wasn't what it really was, right? And it had its own strengths. So at that point, again, the concept of adaptability, which sits in the individualistic traits, right? As I mentioned, at that point, I was like, okay, if this is not what I wanted, but I have this amazing course, like it makes you a Swiss Army knife, because you're able to build expertise across different areas like herbal, clinical, chemistry, formulations, all of that, right? So for me, I just had to reframe everything and then pick it up from there, run along with it. And I would say that, like, I enjoyed my time at pharmacy school. So you would realize that clearly I didn't have all the information to make that particular decision, right? Because at that point, right, if I was not tunnel focused on, I need to do, I wanted to be a surgeon and I want something closely related to healthcare, I think I would have probably explored more things, right? And I would have, maybe I would have gone into product management too earlier, right?
Yeah. So staying a bit more on not having enough information then, and basing your decisions on your personal experiences and your knowledge of yourself, and bringing this back into education. I feel that you are not alone on that. And for most of us in junior high school and senior high school, even in the university, unless you are in a very specified course, when you ask people what they want to go into, what career they want to go into, they have no idea. And there are even people who would go to the university, graduate, and they have no idea what their skills are, their interests are, what job they want to do. Some people will be like, anything goes. And I feel that there is some gap in our education, also in our curriculum, in terms of giving the same sort of medicine, I'll say, to everyone, irrespective of their sickness. And that is to say that standardized education does not bring out individual skills. So we grow up not knowing ourselves, not knowing our interests, not knowing our skills and experiences. On this backdrop, do you think it would make a huge difference if career development is intentionally taught in schools as part of the core courses, or as a core course on its own? I mean, for example, I think in University of Cape Coast, University of Ghana, in some of the universities, across the continent, we have compulsory programs that students take. Used to take communication skills, for example. Do you think there should be that decision to make sure every student learns something on entrepreneurship, CV writing, cover letters, and is intentionally taught career choices and things like that?
Yeah, so I really think that it should really start from promoting self-awareness, right? It should really start from, it's a matter of promoting self-awareness, getting people to understand the concept of wanting to discover themselves, and also promoting flow of information. So even if it's not going to be something that is readily available, like you don't have career, the education service does not have career coaching, should I say career coaches, let me put it that way, or a career guidance center, right, at the high school, the lower levels like junior high school, senior high school. And this is just Ghanaian context, right? It could be something that is integrated into what teachers, pass on to students as a starter. You get it? So I believe that the concept of self-awareness and information flow. Some of us took academic writing and all of that, but at that point we may not be really so self-aware to know that, okay, this is even the benefits, right? If you know yourself and then you know that, okay, we are teaching you this particular program, if you appreciate it more, you get a better perspective to things. And it's sad that also like career guidance is just limited to the university, right? But personally for me, I think at the lower levels, right, the education system should encourage self-awareness and then also encourage exploration, getting people to explore different things. It's not like they tell you that, oh, you think you're smart, do science. Meanwhile, that person wants to maybe do go into commerce, right? It's like basically putting people in boxes. You can still study science and be a business person. You can be a business person and still be fascinated about science, right? It shouldn't be an either-or situation. And I think that's what our current education system is lacking.
Yeah, I really like the point you made there about putting people in boxes. And honestly, I think in our schools, when you're good in math, they tell you do business. When you're good in science, when you're good in drawing, they say do visual art. When you're good in they say go to general art. So it's more like very dictated. If you are topping the class in math, you're going into business, whether or not it's what you want to do, or you can combine or explore different things. But because this podcast is focused on the action that listeners can take to make a difference, not just discussing the state of affairs, we are making some recommendations in terms of how we can shape education. But say a teacher is listening to us, I mean, this podcast is being listened to by teachers, parents, and students mostly. So let's pick these three groups of people. How do you think teachers can incorporate practical hands-on learning experience, or generally can support their children to be career ready? And beyond teachers, or after you've touched on teachers, what do you think a student listening to us who is interested in leaving school career ready, what are some of the steps they should be taking? And a parent is listening to us and it's like, yeah, this is interesting, but how can I support my kid to be career ready after school? What are some of your thoughts or ideas for these three groups of people in terms of becoming career ready or preparing their young ones to be?
Okay, probably I'll start from the teachers. And for the teachers, I'll say they have a very low-hanging fruit. Yeah, I understand that the work that they have to do is burdensome and all of that. Also, there's also the opportunity to like leverage low-hanging fruits. And what I mean by low-hanging fruits is that every university has an alumni group, right? That's a huge pool of people you can tap into. For example, back in University of Southampton, the people who came to speak to us were the same people who studied right, who studied at University of Southampton, and whether undergrad or postgraduate, and they've now gathered their industry experience and they're able to share it with the students. It's an inspiration. Yeah. You get it. So at the lowest hanging fruit for every university, even if you don't have a structured career guidance center, right? And it's not just like university, even high school, you could at least within one term invite a professional to come and talk to your students. That's as I mentioned, is a case of self-awareness and information. And sometimes when you expose people to information, that's why people say you should travel. The core part of telling people to travel is to experience different cultures, and it really boils down to information, right? How other things exist. So if you're able to bring that basic concept to these students, whether they are in uni, they're in high school, and you're able to expose them to these professionals, like a professional comes to talk about a day in the life of, say, an accountant, a day in the life of a pharmacist, a day in the life of this, and all of that. It sort of brings a different perspective. It takes them out of the classroom without they physically going out of the classroom, right? So that's teachers. To parents, again, lowest hanging fruit, you can enhance self-awareness for your child at home. And I think that's one of the factors that I didn't highlight. But really, a lot of things start from the home, right? When you are able to pay attention to your child, because your child spends most of their time with you. Apart from school, they spend most of their time with you. And you are the one to stay in touch with your child right from childhood throughout the education. So when it comes to who has the best knowledge about a kid, it should be the parents. And that also means that the concept of should I say positive reinforcement for good behaviors, and negative reinforcement for bad behaviors has to be adopted, right? And it feeds directly into also awareness. If you compliment your child when they do something, you are able to let them know that they have that particular strength, and that gets them to recognize the kind of opportunities that they can pair those strengths with if they're able to get the right knowledge to them. For example, my niece is good at drawing, and because I'm a career coach, I'm thinking about options for her. I'm not going to push that to her, but it's more like if I get the opportunity, as she matures, if I get the opportunity to expose her to all these opportunities in art or drawing and all of that, it can shape her perspective on what she wants to become. Beyond that, I'll get her to explore different things, right? And all those kind of experiences sort of shapes your perspective. So from a parent's angle, whether you're a parent, you're an uncle, you're an auntie, whatever, you have a role to play, right? If you even find another person rebuking their child for a talent that they have, you should be able to put in a word, right? You should be able to draw the parent's mindset to the fact that this is a strength that could be nurtured and there's a place for it. So that's about the parents. And I'll say for the students, it's more around you should stay curious, right? At the end of the day, if your parents fail you in quotes, right, in this context, and the education system fails you in quotes, you shouldn't fail yourself. So not failing yourself means getting out of the way to do these things that the systems would have afforded you. I know it's going to be hard, it's going to be tough, just that you can't then back down and then blame everything on the system if it's not working. You have to still pick yourself up. So as a student, whether you're in high school, you're junior high school, you're in uni, just get a bit curious, talk to people, understand the things that they do on a day-to-day basis. And that way you get to shape your perspectives around things. For me, that's exactly what I wanted to do. I went into my master's studying business analytics, but I came out thinking about product management, which is not necessarily business analytics. So I'll say that's the approach you take looking at these three stakeholders or group of people.
Yeah, that is really interesting. I like what you really said about if your parents have failed you, if your teacher's education has failed you, at least don't fail yourself. Moving the conversation away from the role of teachers, parents, and pupils themselves, I wonder what you would say decision makers at a national level, that is state-led actors like the government, the Ghana Education Service, or whatever education service is. How can state agencies shape the education system to better prepare pupils to be ready for the world of work and entrepreneurship?
Okay. So that's a very tricky question, right? In the sense that with our current system of governance or even politics, it's always the case of doing what would get people to want to vote for you at the polls.
Yeah.
And not necessarily what would help people. So let me take that again, like doing what would get you to win the votes and not necessarily what will create an impact and change in the lives of people, right? And I believe that the state, politicians, government, leaders, right, do have a critical role to play.
Yeah.
There's a concept. I think it's not just limited to product management, but it can be related to a lot of things. Design thinking, right? When you are trying to build a solution for people, you need to get to the point where you're able to empathize with them.
Yeah.
Right. You empathize with them before you go ahead and you define even the problem that they are facing, and you go ahead to ideate around it. Then you prototype, and then you test. And when you test the solution and you feel like, okay, it's getting better, you refine it till you get to that near perfect state. And I sometimes feel like, why I'm saying this is that I sometimes feel like there's the bit of not being able to empathize with the problems that exist in our education system, right? And sometimes it's very easy to sit at a distance and assume that this is the problem, right? And most often than not, if you decide to go into the problem, if you decide to interrogate your own assumptions and you have those bold conversations with people, you realize that what you have in mind may not necessarily be what is on the ground.
Okay.
And I'm thinking that, based on my observations, I'm thinking that that's the current gap that exists in government today, right? Or with our leaders. So we are looking at all the interesting things. It's all about, being able to maybe change curriculum, focusing on the technical aspect, the subjects, etc. But then the bit about, the guidance bit of things is lost, right from the basic schools through to the secondary schools.
Yeah.
And then even to the university. The university, yes, they exist, but it seems you have to chase them before they even respond to you.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I think I wanted to pick on your issue of government decision making. And I feel that a lot of the debate around career readiness has centered around preparing peoples for the industry, with some industry players arguing with some research work I've read, saying that lots of graduates do not come out from the university with skills that are relevant for the top industry or the growing industries. And so would you say that there is a need to prepare students to be able to thrive, make decisions, and learn for themselves, as academics argue? or there is a need to think, for example, that, okay, we are in career-wise a moment of AI revolution, or we are into this particular era, and so university curriculums would need to be reformed, or education curriculums would need to change to reflect the changing times? Would you say that there's a need to be industry specific when preparing curriculums, or looking at people developing more general skills that would allow them to adapt at any time or learn, even if it means they're not being readily available to contribute to industry when they get into it?
Yeah, I mean, it boils down to the same thing I'm saying, right? Empathizing. So there's like, okay, this new wave of AI is flying around and all of that, but the leaders are not empathizing enough to think about, okay, what does this look like in the next X years, right, for our education system? And so, yes, I completely align with the fact that even education in itself should not be politicized, right? And beyond that concept too, they should policies, even policies within the education community, whether it's tertiary education, secondary school education, primary school education, it should be focused on bridging the gap, right? And I've always had this issue that ever since I finished my program, right?
Yeah.
I'd never had feedback, or let me not say feedback, but I never saw a survey from my university, right, to ask me about whether the things I studied in school is relevant to what I am practicing now.
Yeah.
And that's, first of all, starting off, that's like a huge gap, right? That's a very huge gap, because then if you want to really test the impact of your work, right? If you want to test the impact of your work after running the person through your 4-year education, if it's university, you'd want to find out from them when they get into the real world, to see how whatever they've been taught is matching up. And where there's a gap, you bridge the gap.
Yeah. So
I don't know if it exists, but as it stands, no, it doesn't, right? To the best of my knowledge. So those are like some minor things that could be done. They don't take much. Like running a survey does not take much. Universities are constantly in touch with alumni members. If it's more like an alumni celebration, it will be very easy for them to put together. So why can't we have the same energy when it comes to being able to interrogate our assumptions? Because it could be that the assumption is that we are giving them the best education. Yeah. They go into the world of work, and they are surviving, so it's working.
Okay.
But what if we would take that bold step and decide to empathize and think about it? Are these people getting the impact of whatever we taught them? Is there a way we could get better at what we are even teaching the people in the schools? Yeah. Right. And that's just one step. But on a broader scheme of things, I believe that the posture of, like, even beyond like this at the school level, the institutional level, but the posture of government, right? Although I'm saying that it shouldn't be influenced, education should not be influenced by politics, there should also be the right investment, right, in place to support educational initiatives. And these should be initiatives around being able to do like some form of an R&D. Every serious organization, every serious institution has an R&D arm, like a research and development arm. And it's really about, being able to tap into insights, being able to tap into previous occurrences, and then making projections and decisions that will shape the future. And as it stands, I'm here to see government or educational institutions putting a lot of effort in that direction. Yeah. And that's why our educational curriculum too might appear stagnant, right? So it's a mix of factors, and I believe that it will take baby steps. And one of these baby steps has got to do with just bridging the gap. Talk to people who move out of your school and ask them whether whatever you taught them is happening. That the change has to start from somewhere, and it starts from opening yourself up to feedback and interrogating your assumptions.
That is a really interesting input. I think that a lot of listeners may relate to the fact that most universities do not come back to graduates to assess as to whether the teaching and the learning experience they had is helping them in their world of work or after school. I think that would be a huge source of learning. Recently had the chance to review the core curriculum, especially the program on our world and our people. I think that and this is not just in the Ghanaian curriculum. I had the chance to look at other curriculums, that of Uganda and Kenya. I think that increasingly we are seeing some level of neoliberalization in terms of each man for himself. People are expected to work hard and try for themselves, like make it, rather than look at the state as a welfare state that provides for them in the direction and they're moving to the direction of you're on your own. And I think that in this era of you're on your own and people coming into that acceptance, what would you think are the key resources people can thrive on to build their career without the support systems that government or even parent or environment may provide? What do you think people can write? And we'll end on this note.
First of all, I have my own reservations of you're on your own, right? I believe that it's always a mix. It's never black and white. So a lot of people think, the government has to do everything. There's another camp that believes that it has to be just you, just focus on you. For me, I believe that it's a mixed effort. The government has its role to play, and then you also have your role to play, right? So I just wanted to address that.
Yeah.
So important. In terms of being on your own, I would say there are stats, right? I don't have the right stat, but Hootsuite do have those reports. When you look at the reports in terms of internet penetration, I'm not saying that we are perfect, but if you find yourself, you are privileged enough to find yourself in some parts of the country, that's Ghana, you realize that at least you have access to internet.
At a very expensive price, though.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I'm saying quite expensive, though.
Yeah, I'm not disputing that, right? We moved from having a SIM card, just a SIM card being, those days it was 1.5 million, and that was a huge sum of money, to that's like 150 cedis, to now SIM cards being, I don't know, about 3 cedis or even 5 cedis, right? So it got to a point where a SIM card was just 1 Ghana cedi, right? So there's been improvements, right? So if you are going with you're on your own agenda, there's been improvements with regards to digital inclusion, right? And with that comes the opportunity of self-learning. Right now, there are so many upskilling opportunities. There are like investment by organizations like MasterCard and the likes, working through organizations like ALX, right? Giving people the opportunity to upskill, not just even in the area of tech. There's a bit about virtual assistantship. There's a bit about financial, how do you call it, FMTA? I've forgotten the actual expanded meaning of that. But there's the opportunity to learn, right? And so I believe that in as much as we are not in a perfect state, we are not getting the total support from government, the institutions are not giving us the total support, the complete support that we need. If we have the opportunity, if we are privileged enough to have the internet, to have a phone, right, that's to connect to the internet, then you are in the opportunity to build yourself technically, in any form of technical skill that you want to find. And beyond that, there's also like the ability to connect with people, right? So in the past, you would have to write a letter to someone as a pen pal to get in touch with them with the delays and all of that. Now with the power of LinkedIn, you can connect with people. You can have conversations with people who are like on the other side of the world, and you can tap into the experiences of these people. You can tap into their mentorships, and then you can leverage that for your own growth, which is what a career guidance center would have done for you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So what you would have learned in the classroom, you're finding that on the internet with so many online courses. Some are even free. You only get a certificate, like you only pay for your certificate. And I'm a very big fan of, you don't even need a certificate. You need the knowledge, and then you need to use the knowledge to execute something as an evidence of your work. So you don't even need a certificate to prove that you can execute, right? Exactly. So it boils down to now seeing that there's a simulation of a typical school environment online. You can build your technical skills. You can get the mentorship and the career guidance that you want from people. Yeah. So if you have the internet, if you have the phone, and you're not making good of this opportunity, then I think you have to blame yourself for some of the woes, right? It may sound mean, but that's the reality. Yes, the government will play their role. The institutions will have to play their role, and you as an individual will have to play your role in the mix. So that's what I would really want to end with. In that there are a lot of resources online, and I'm hoping that as we move along, internet becomes cheaper, mobile phones become cheaper, people are able to access it on the go, like high quality networks, not like the network I'm talking about, the network like what you get in the UK when someone calls you and you're even using your internet, it does not drop the internet, unlike what happens in Ghana, although we pay so much for it. So I'm just hopeful that we get to that point where there's full penetration and we're able to leverage the power of the internet. Right. Even in the face of this whole AI revolution, we'll be able to upskill so that we don't get cut off from the global progress.
Yeah, thank you very much for sharing. I think those are really important points about self-learning and networking using the internet as a facilitator. Thank you so much for your time, for sharing really insightful points. I think it's been a learning experience for myself, some of the things you've shared, and I am hopeful that audience would also pick a point or two from there. So it's been a pleasure having you on the Let's Talk Education Africa podcast. Hoping we take this conversation from another angle another time. Thanks.
Sure. Thank you so much for having me, Stephen. And it was a pleasure coming on and sharing what I know from my perspective. And I wouldn't say all that I've shared are cast in stone. I'm actually looking forward to people challenging these ideas. That's the only way we can grow and interrogate our assumptions.